Okay, we are in business, guys. Happy Saturday, everyone, and thank you guys for joining us for Retrial Session 2. I'm Elle. I'll introduce myself last. I would like to have my speakers introduce themselves. Who would like to go first? Ryan, Heather, or Carrie?
I can go first.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Heather Reese. I'm an attorney. I've been an attorney for 4 years, almost 5 years now. It'll be 5 in April. I went to school at Widener Delaware Law, and I'm really excited to do this presentation.
Okay. Ryan.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ryan Willis. As Elle has said, I have been a practicing attorney for 3.5 years. Before in May. Um, yes, I'm a former public defender, but now work for a private firm doing criminal defense, family law, and estate planning.
It's your turn, Carrie.
Thank you so much, Elle. I appreciate you. First of all, I want to say thank you so much, Elle, and thank you so much to Heather and to Ryan for being here on this historic weekend, MLK weekend. And this is what MLK wanted us to do. He wanted us to bend the arc of justice in our favor by creating the opportunity or helping other people to create the opportunity to become attorneys. It is great to be a lawyer. I graduated from Boston College Law School in 2004. Yes, I've been practicing law for about 20 years. And I graduated from Georgetown University School of Foreign Service in 2001. And I did not pass my bar exam the first time, did not pass it a second time. I passed it on my third time. And just like Carrie Tubman, I want to not just escape this misery. I want to now bring as many people back as possible to escape this misery so that you can become an attorney, not a lawyer, an attorney. One that's able to, that's licensed, that has a license from a state. I have a license from the state of New York to practice law, and it is a great license. It's a license that I use to help other people and to support my family. And I'm looking forward to sharing with you the tips that I've learned to help you pass the bar exam. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm happy you guys all touched on what you guys do. And last but not least, me. Like I said, I'm Elle. I am also an attorney. I am an in-house attorney, and I primarily work with marketing, IP, consumer protection. And yeah, I also did not pass the bar, obviously, on my first try. And it took me 3 tries before I got a passing score. So yeah, that's pretty much why I wanted to start this series, because there is a lot of shame, but it shouldn't be, because I mean, at least 20% of us do not pass the bar on our first try. So I wanna kind of like break down that stigma, and I want to help us all to kind of get over the hump. Like, you failed the test, it's okay, but we're going to figure out how, we're going to share with you guys rather how we figured out and how we moved on and how we were able to overcome, because it's very easy to just get bogged down. It's very easy to allow the quote unquote shame or embarrassment to consume you. But we're here to show you that we all made it to the other side, and you can too. So let's figure it out together. So let's start with, what made you guys want to become attorneys in the first place? Let's be random. Ryan, you go first.
What made me want to go to law school was I always had this knack for helping people. Um and I thought the best way to do that is to become a lawyer. So um I um I went into it wanting to be I guess I won't call that champion, but I just wanted to make sure that the voice of the people who were looked over were still being heard. Because when in the legal system, you can get bogged down and get really scared, really nervous to do so. And so at a young age, when we had to go through the court system, I was like, I want to be a lawyer. I want to be in front of the room and talking, and and then it's something about, for me, when I was on the debate team, it was just something about talking and everyone listening to me. And so that's where it came from. I went to law school. I wanted to be a trial attorney, and I want to do jury trials, and so that's where I got my start.
Awesome. Let's see. Heather.
So I became an attorney because my best friend's dad, when I was young, was an attorney, and I got to see him do trials and arbitrations. I do personal injury law, and that's what he did. And I just fell in love with the way that he was able to tell a story with a given set of facts and the way he was able to move people. And, I said, if I can do this to help victims of, wrongdoing, that's what I want to do. So that's why I became an attorney.
And last but not least, Carrie.
Thank you, Elle. I became an attorney. I grew up in the '90s, and so I saw the O.J. Simpson trial. Johnny Cochran, to me, he was a hero. I was like, hey, I want to be like that guy. And also my older brother went to law school. So if my older brother could do something, I know I could do it because I'm smarter than him. And so, you know how it is. You see someone in your family do something, you just want to do it. I mean, just right there. And so he went to law school, and I said, you know what, I could do it too. And I'm just so thankful. Everything worked out. Not only am I an attorney, I'm also in private practice, but I'm also an elected official since 2012. And during that time, my little baby sister is now a New York State Assemblywoman. In fact, she's the deputy speaker. She's the third most powerful assembly person. And my brother's a judge now. He's a court of claims judge. He was appointed by Cuomo. And so he's a court of claims judge. And so the law is great. We're here, everyone, just to not brag about what we do, but to show you that there's light at the end of the tunnel and that you have to want it. And if you do want it, the reward is great. Not only do you make money to support your family, but you could actually make a change in society. Thank you again.
Yes, I totally agree. I'll go briefly because I'm pretty sure I've said this like a billion times, but I wanted to be either a criminal defense attorney or a prosecutor until I learned a lot more about our justice system and decided to opt out and find something else that sparked joy. So had no idea what I wanted to do when I actually got to law school. More so just had a list of things or areas that I did not like. And, process of elimination. I landed in IP, thought I was going to be a litigator until I accepted that I'm not supposed to be in anybody's court. So then I pivoted again and really found my niche. So yeah, that's my little why, but I definitely agree. I wanted to help people, and really my motivation for being a criminal defense attorney / prosecutor was to, at the end of the day, kind of try to change the system from within. And I still try to do that, and I still would like to continue to try to do that, but just in a different way. I'd rather, be on the sidelines, not on the front lines. So let's move into, how was law school for you guys? How was law school for you guys? Did your schools do anything to help prepare you for the bar? Did they offer any additional resources? So the school that I got my JD from, New York Law School, they made us take an intro to MBE / intro to MEE course. And they built it into our curriculum for our final year. So we went in to bar study summer having an idea of like what the exam would be like a little. So like did you guys at school offer anything like that?
What mine did. Um, we had we had a MBE course. Again, I went to school in Florida, so Florida is a specific bar exam, and so a lot of classes were generated towards the Florida bar our third year, but they still offer multi-state bar and skills course, which we took, and then they also gave us, I cannot remember this program, I've been going for probably 5 years now. um it's a program where they enrolled us in there. They get us we get adaptive bar, we get a glimpse of the Barbary course book, and we get like the NPRE book and not NPRE, the some book on Kaplan, and then we assign a mentor from one of our faculties, and then they really work with us throughout that summer while we're studying for the bar to get inside of that to get ready they help us prepare us for the bar. And so my school did offer us some type of help in that way. I didn't take full advantage of it because again I wasn't taking the Florida bar, so I used it on a social basis when it came down to the multiple choice questions.
Gotcha.
So my school did have it. So we had a bar prep course. It was like offered our last year. I think everyone had to take it. I'm not entirely sure, but I remember I had to take it. So it was a bit of like Kaplan questions, a bit of Barbary. They really pushed on a lot of Barbary stuff, but it was like a course you had to take. And you were also assigned an advisor who you could opt to go help you and like go talk over essays and stuff. I'm going to be brutally honest, I did not take full advantage of it. And I wish I probably should have, but I did not. But yeah, the course I thought was overall helpful in general. I mean, I had an idea of what the questions were going to look like before I went into the bar summer. So.
And Carrie.
I attended Boston College Law School. It was number 22 ranked, a tier 1 law school, and they didn't do really much to help me pass the New York State bar exam. They taught me Massachusetts law. I guess I really didn't realize that where you go to law school determines like how likely you are to pass the bar exam and other factors, of course, yourself, which we'll talk about. But they didn't really focus on the New York bar exam. They focused on the Massachusetts bar exam. So really taking the bar exam course, Barbary was the first time I really got to know New York law. And again, I didn't do well with Barbary the first time, obviously, because Barbary, I believe, was kind of like lazy learning. They just gave you the notes. And I didn't pass the bar exam until I learned to make my own notes. I actually pulled up from 20 years ago my actual notebook that I created. And so Barbary, the first time you take your own note, you just copying notes. You're really not really learning it, especially in the new era of cell phones, where you're not really using your hand, your mental memory. You're just like, thinking you're learning information, but you're not. And so the second time I took the exam, I didn't learn that. I didn't make my own notes. The third time I took the bar exam, I had to really understand what made me a good student. And I remember like back in like 5th grade, 8th grade, I made my own notes. And so I actually made my own notes and I broke it down based upon category so I could use it and quickly access it. I made my own notes and I still have them. And that's what like I get
to that.
Barbary, I didn't really take my own notes. I just copied notes. Second time, I had a tutor. It didn't work out. I used Merino, which I have the book right here, this big Merino book. But the third time, I took Peeper. And Peeper, you actually have to like take your own notes. And the brain is a muscle until you actually put down mental. So you got to get away from the cell phones. You have to actually write your own notes and write what the language is when it comes to the 14th Amendment as processed through the due process clause. You have to know the actual language and memorize it. And sometimes writing makes you memorize it. So that's how I can best answer that question.
Yes.
That's fun that you kept your book, because I threw mine right in trash.
I definitely burned all my bar stuff.
I donated it.
Oh, I should have donated it. Now I feel bad. but no,
I wanted to burn it, but you know, when you live in New York City, you can't just be setting fires to stuff.
yeah, I'm in the suburbs, so I said I'm burning it.
I know, and I wanted to do that too, but I knew that like God was putting me through a test for a reason. And sometimes when you go through a test, you have to testify. So I knew one day through you, Elle, I would have the opportunity to teach other people how to pass the bar exam because I don't want you to go through what I went through. It was hard, but it makes me appreciate what I have now more as an attorney, and that's why I really work hard for my clients. So again, you have to make your own notes to really understand that your brain's a muscle.
Yes. So, okay, we kind of sort of jumped into that. So, Carrie, you mentioned that you started with Barbary, then, you know, eventually you moved to Peeper and you tried, wait, what's the other company you tried? Marino?
I was so like mentally distraught from not passing the first time. Like I had like a breakdown, honestly. Like aside from like, you know, like my grandmother dying like in 8th grade, this is like the biggest thing that happened in my life, you know. Like I just, you know, went to, you know, really like I had a nice upbringing, you know, in the suburbs. You know, my parents, 2 parents, you know, same household, you know, like 4 kids, you know, whatever. It was all great, you know. And I guess I have to say, you know, this was not a big challenge compared to what else could happen in life. But I didn't pass it. I took it personal, and I had to like really understand that I couldn't deal with grief and just regret. I had to replace that with self-love and
Yeah.
learning to do this. So, okay, go ahead, Zach.
Yes, we're gonna get into that a little bit later.
I answer your question. I'm sorry. So
Yeah. Yes, you answered it.
okay.
Ryan and Heather, who did you guys go with? Like, did you guys go with a major bar prep company, Barbary, Themis, Kaplan, blah, 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 or like, and then go into what did you do after? So your second, third, however many times, doesn't matter.
Yeah, so I took it twice. The first time I used Barbary, and I literally only used Barbary because I was interning at the DA's at the time, and I got the public interest discount. And I said, this is the only way that I'm going to be able to pay for a bar prep course because they're so expensive. So I took Barbary the first time. I didn't find Barbary to be as helpful for me, for the type of learning that I do. The second time I used Adaptabar, and then I had a private tutor. And I passed the second time. So I thought that tutor was very helpful.
So I took it 3 times. The first 2 times I took Themis. And so I was using the Themis bar prep questions, essays, and adaptive bar. And then I was also using what's called these outlines from Studicata. I think it's Studicata. And they had a lot of breakdowns on how to outline for your essays. With that being said, I kind of like had like maybe like too much, and I did not pass. And then the second time, I you know, because Themes give you a free bar prep course again, so you could use it again. So, I used it again. Same. This time I just used the Themes and adaptive bar, and then that's when I got my I missed it by 1 point. And then the third time I couldn't afford another bar prep course. So I had to use my own knowledge. I had to study my own way, study with all the materials I already had. And or the only thing that I did do is I used Quimby for essays. And so it was kind of cheap. It was like $4.50. And I got to do all the essays and someone graded them. And so I just used them for that, which worked better for my pockets. And I ended up passing. And what I did differently was I've got that was that the third time is I already knew the law, so that wasn't the issue that I was trying to get past. It was so much of how can I know it well enough in the time crunch that I'm giving. And so once I practiced that way, when I came down to my essays, I had it every time issue, rule, analysis, conclusion, issue, rule, analysis, conclusion. So I always made sure when I'm doing the essays, I had the issue, whether it was, if I could not do a whether, under, or before, I just went, I bullet point battery, and I just went in on my rule and my analysis in that way and my conclusion. So that way it helped me better set up my my essays to make sure that it is clear and concise, and to make sure that the people who are reading it know that, okay, he's clear, this is his buzzwords, he applied the factors, okay, cool, boom. And so what I always try to tell people, if they read too much into your essay, they're about to rip it apart. So I always try to make sure that you're clear enough and to hit the buzzwords.
I also forgot I used Critical Pass flashcards. I totally forgot about them. I bought them too, and I thought they were really helpful.
And the one sheets.
Yep. The what are they from what
Ones, right?
the JD advising ones?
Yes, the JD advising one sheets.
So I'm a little bit more of a complicated, convoluted kind of story. So the first time around, I also took Barbary. Absolutely hated every minute, second, hour of it. But it's because I wasn't learning anything at all. I wasn't absorbing any kind of information whatsoever. I was sitting in front of the computer for 12, 14 hours a day, starving and still stupid. Like, knew nothing of what they were saying, except for this one professor, Paula Francisi. So in her video lectures, she sings, and it got on my nerves so bad that it helped me to remember different concepts. So, in that sense, I guess it was worth it and helpful, but in the grand scheme of things, Barbary did not work for me. I too got a tutor, and she was great, and I highly recommend, if you can swing it at all, I do recommend working with a tutor, even if not for an entire summer, maybe just a couple of sessions, so that they can really help you fine tune. Like, if writing is a problem for you, and that, if you know you don't write well, maybe consider a tutor or something like that, something like Smart Bar Prep. So it's like, I'll show you guys my Smart Bar Prep outline in a little while, but basically stuff like Smart Bar Prep helps you to kind of like really understand what it is the graders are looking for. And it also was helpful for me to know exactly how many times these specific rules were tested, so that I kind of was able to budget my time a little better. But yeah, Barbary did nothing for me. I low-key was upset. I took out a bar study loan because I could not afford a bar prep course on my own. Yeah, that if you can avoid a bar study loan, please do. We'll go into that another time. But if you can avoid it, please do, because them interest rates are crazy, and they don't care about a pandemic, epidemic, family emergency. If you die, you probably still have to pay them. So bar study loans, if you can avoid them, run. But anyways, what I finally did different when I passed is, again, Smart Bar Prep. Those were game changers. I got Critical Pass flashcards, but I'm also just not a flashcard girl. So that I weaved in the Critical Pass cards into like my passive study moments. So to kind of make myself feel less guilty about watching TV, I just, flip through some of the cards and try to quiz myself a little bit like that. But ultimately, Smart Bar Prep, Adaptabar, those two were game changers. Definitely the JD advising one sheets, and there's something else, Quimby. Quimby was a lifesaver in law school, and it definitely helped when it came to bar prep later on in life. So it was more so weaving in other things. I completely abandoned Barbary after that first time, even though they did offer the full course retake. But again, I think the consensus is we all pretty much had to figure out how we learned. And it may work for you guys, it may work for some people, but for me, Barbary did nothing. And that was a waste of however many dollars I put into it, because it just did not work with my brain. So yeah, it wasn't until I completely abandoned the traditional bar prep course. And not that I'm saying that y'all need to do the same thing, but just from my experience, I did not start seeing results until I abandoned the rigorous, unrealistic schedule and flow that Barbary had set out for us. Question. Did you guys do like study groups at all, either in law school or for bar prep?
Law school, yes. Bar prep, no.
I did both. So I studied with people for law school. I had just like a regular law school study group. And then for bar prep, the first time I took it, I studied with one of the girls that I had studied with all year. And then the second time I took it, I studied a lot less with people that were in law school and studied with my friends that weren't in law school. And I think for me, that helped so much because I was able to communicate with people that didn't understand law. And I said to myself, like, I need to, like you said, go back to the way that I learned best. And how I learned best was talking. Like, I knew I had to talk through things. I knew I had to explain things. And it helped to be able to teach them concepts because they're things that they had never heard, right? So it's a little bit different than when you're studying with law school people who might think that they know the rule of law and they might also be wrong. So then you're both kind of bouncing ideas. It's like after you take the bar exam the first time, right? Everyone comes out and starts talking about the answers and how like their answer is probably right and your answer is not. So I found studying with people that weren't in law school was best for me in the study groups for the second time.
How about
Yes.
you?
Yeah, law school was like, like a herd, so like you had to like work with other people to condense a lot of information. You had a study group. The bar exam was more of like an individualistic journey in which you have to learn on your own. Yes, you have a tutor to maybe understand if what you're doing is correct or not, or have other people to help you to see if you're on the right path. But really, you have to put a lot of work into this, and sometimes only alone can you put that work into this. But it's a lot of work. And but if you get the law down and test yourself under really realistic test-like conditions, like for example, I went to the New York City Library and did an actual bar exam on a Saturday morning or whenever the bar exam was being held under the same test-taking conditions, so that I would be accustomed to the stress of taking a test. So it's a mental experience and also a physical experience where you have to have a physical stamina to take an actual exam. But thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I am not a study group girl at all whatsoever. I attempted it and I attempted it one L year and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to sit here and chit chat with y'all. We could chit chat tomorrow. I'm trying to understand the rule against perpetuities. I still don't understand it. I don't even think the founding fathers understood. However, this is where we are. But I'm like, yeah, study groups, they don't work. So I'm not a group studier. I was never a fan of group projects. Like, just, I get distracted very easily. And also, I'm a bit of an empath. So if somebody else is having like a really hard time and you crying because you don't understand what a tort is, then I feel like I have to like step in and I have to stop what I'm doing and I need to attend to you. And that's counterproductive. So no study group for me. I did study with one of my good friends from law school a couple of times, but that study session was more of we're just in community with one another, kind of like a body double accountability partner. Don't talk to me. Don't talk to me while we're studying. If you have a question, write it down, shoot me a text. And then when we take a break, then we could chat about it. We could work it out. We can talk through some concepts. But for me, study groups have always been a no. So that's another thing I want to impress upon you guys. When you figure out how you learn, honor that. If you know you're not a group studier, if you know that a lot of external noise or opinions and stuff like that, if it makes you frazzled, if it makes you forget, don't do it. Just because that's what everybody else is doing and everyone's telling you that you need to take this big old group bar prep and you need to go and you need to, you don't. When you figure out how you learn and what works for you, do more of that. Period. Full stop. Do more of that. But trying to kind of like conform into this whole, I don't want to be in a herd. I don't want to be in a group. We could talk later. So yeah, keep that in mind, guys.
Well, since you led into that, about finding out what works best for you, and for those who are taking it for the first time or those who are taking it for another time, my first time taking it, it took me a minute to figure out work best for me, and so I was trying everything to make it stick. And then a second time I kind of like figured it out, but the third time is when I really knew what worked best for me. And I think is I always tell people how you study in law school should be the same way how you study for the bar with a little tweak in it. And that's where if you're not a what Elle said was flashcards kind of person, don't do them. I tried them. I was like, I don't learn like this. Why am I sitting trying to remember a flashcard? Up trash. And so I knew what was outlining was my bread and butter. That's what I live, breathe, and die by. And so once I threw out everybody all the other stuff and only stuck with me outlining and I have this little my friends say I was OD because in law school I used to write out my rules paragraphs for the exam. And so I used to sit there and it's like, well, how do you remember all this? Because it just helped me to when I get there to formulate it because I don't remember all of it, but I know how to start it. And so like I could write it out. And so when I got ready for the third time with the bar, I was writing my rules paragraphs. Now some people say it's OD, but it's a little but that work it's how it works for me. And so when it came down to any subject, I already knew okay, I know a little bit. Okay, I can combine this and I can make it look cute right here. And so and that way it helps you. And that's my way how I study. So always as to a great point, do what works best for you, whether it's how much time you put in studying, whether what how do you study, because always I preach to my students now who I'm helping for the bar is it is quality time of studying and not how many hours you put in time of studying, because you can put in 10 hours and not know a damn thing, but you can put in 1 hour and you know at least two subjects. So you get and so I would say the average person attention span is like 10 minutes. So I took that to my advantage.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Oh man, Ryan ain't lying. A great point. Really, I just gotta really emphasize what you said, and also like what you said before about the issue, rule, analysis, conclusion. You know, guys, we're here taking the exam. We're lawyers. We can find out what the correct answer is. At least law school teaches you how to do research and how to find the answer. And so I found out what is the passing essay in New York at the time looks like. And so I just copied the way the person wrote that essay the same way. I just did the same thing they did. They didn't reinvent the wheel. They didn't try to be special. This is not the time to ad lib and do your own thing. This is the time to do exactly what they want you to do and do it. So if they tell you to do BA, left, right, select, start, which is the code for 30 men in Nintendo, in most games, do that. Don't do anything else. Do that. So for example, you learned that in the contracts, there is, you know, the exception to the contracts, the statute of frauds, right? So you're gonna in an essay synthesize the answers. You're gonna say, excuse me?
Bring it closer.
Okay, great. Okay, sure. So you're going to synthesize the answer. So a contract, as you know, in New York State has consideration, but if it's not a contract, there's an exception to a contract, and that's the statute of frauds. A contract could violate the statute of frauds. So, like, even if you don't know the law, you're still writing down in New York State there, in order to have a contract, you must have consideration. However, if it violates the statute of frauds, then you don't have a contract. And so if you put that down to the person looking at the essay, they're like, wow, like he's talking in the issue, rule, analysis, conclusion style, and he's giving me the key words. I don't care if he has the essay correct. He just sounds like a lawyer. You have to sound like a lawyer in this exam, and that's what your essays have to reflect. And so, it's about synthesizing the information in the right tool, the right way. And there are examples on the internet or through other means. You could find out what a passing essay looks like and just copy the same style.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I think that was the best part about my tutor is he tutored for Pennsylvania. And at the time, Pennsylvania was not UBE. Wish it was, but it wasn't. And I had to take the it was state specific law. So, and I think there's other states that also do state specific. I forget who's not in the UBE. Delaware's not. But you have to learn to write exactly the way that they want you to write, regardless of like what you think. And I think that was hard for me to wrap my brain around because just me as a person likes to, if I hear something that I know or from like current events or whatever, I'm used to like giving it a little bit of flair. That's what really like smacked me in the face and was like, no, don't do that. I also think, make sure you know what you're good at, and focus more on that. So like I said this before, I know I'm not good at essays, never going to be good at them, just wasn't great at them. But I know I'm really good at multiple choice. So I said, instead of trying to be perfect at everything, because I think it's impossible to be perfect at everything, I said, I'm going to put all of my effort into acing the MBE. I'm going to get as many points as I can get there. And I'm still going to work on the essays. Don't get me wrong. I mean, me and my tutor worked on them, but I knew I needed to focus on what I do best because then I can get a high enough score to pass. And, I knew my strength wasn't essays. I still worked on it, but I knew where to redirect my attention. And I think that took me back to 1L year. I always said to myself, I need to study like I studied 1L year because 1L year was a really defining year for you, right? So I said, all right, I study best in groups. I study best with multiple choice cards. I study best with like games. Like there's so many online games that you can find where they have like the rule of law and it's like Math Blaster, Bejeweled, and somebody created it and now it has rule of law. And I'm like, all right, well, I know that works best with me. So I need to go back to 1L year thinking and 1L year studying because that to me was, like I said, a defining year. And I thought it to be really helpful. So like I always say, focus on the things that you're really, really, really good on. And if there's one that you're exceptionally good on it, make sure that you're super good on it so it can outweigh, some of the issues that you have with the other type of writing.
I second all of that. So I knew that my strengths were in writing. So I focused a good chunk of my time on perfecting my writing because I just knew that, the first time I took it, I had abbreviations like can't and don't. And it's like, who told you that was a good idea? I was going into issues that the question wasn't really asking. And it's just like, nobody asked you that either. It's kind of like what everyone else said. You gotta they lay it out for you. You have access to essays that have done well, that you can see how they write. Look honestly at your past performance and compare it to what the bar examiners deemed a high-ranking essay. And in that sense, yes, do conform because again, it's laid out for you. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. This ain't the place to get creative. It's not it. Definitely do not say don't and can't, cannot, do not, shall not. Like it's just simple adding in like those simple terminologies that we tend to overlook, that could be the difference between an extra 2 points that you need to put you over the hump. So again, figure out what works. Obviously, what works for these bar examiners is the sample essays the model answers that they provide, and it goes into all of the points that the people who wrote the exam were looking for. Now, you don't have to hit every point perfectly. You can even come down to the wrong conclusion, but how well did you lay out how well did you lay out the rules? How well did you lay out the issue? How good was your analysis? So it's more so about, again, don't reinvent the wheel. I was reinventing the wheel. Don't do that. Yes, Carrie.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, everybody, let's understand what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with a standardized test. And this standardized test, just like the LSAT, remember the LSAT where you had the logic games and the regular multiple choice? And then in order to prove how strong you are, I'm gonna spend a lot of time trying to get the logic game right. Wrong. Spend time, spend your time wisely and spend it on the multiple choice that you can get correctly, rack up points there and understand what you're good at and do very well at what you're good at. Going back to what Heather said, that's what a standardized test is. That's what capitalism is, right? It's knowing what you're good at, specialization, and sticking to it, right? You're good at criminal defense, stick to criminal defense. Don't try to, stick into another area law where you're not good at. So it's a standardized test. Stick to what you're good at. Spend time at what you're good at. Become very good at what you're good at, and what you're not good at, try to limit and spend less time with it. And so recognize what you're not good at, spend less time with it. And lastly, like any multiple choice exam, you could guess the right answer just by looking at the stem and the answer choices A, B, C, D. The correct answer you're looking for is the answer that's always going to be true. It's going to sound reasonable. So it's not going to have like the extreme language like, oh, this will never happen or this always happen. It's safe language. That's how lawyers talk, right? This is more reasonable. This is more likely to happen. This is less likely to happen, provided this. So, so you're looking for that answer choice, A, B, C, D. That's just a correct answer that sounds right, that no matter what, it's right, and nobody can hate on it, nobody can disagree with. That's really, if you don't have time, you're just looking for the right, oh, this sounds good, this sounds good, this sounds good. That's what standardized test too. And that's what I've known people who get 1600s on SAT, and that's what they do. They know how to identify the right answer. Thank you.
Yep, exactly. And okay, hold on. Let me share my screen. Can you guys see what I'm trying to pull up? No? I don't like that. I'm sorry. 1 second.
Why Elle is waiting on that? How do everyone feel about the MPT if you're just
You mean the MPT, that little small universe exam where you have to write, right? Yeah, that's different than the multiple choice. And I actually scored so low on the MPT. I scored the lowest on the MPT and the lowest on the essays to pass. The reason the MPT was so hard for me is because they're so strict about you following exactly what is in that instructions. And it doesn't matter if it tells you to write in a completely different format than you're used to. Mine had Wikipedia sources, and I couldn't get past that. Like I could not, my brain said I wasn't allowed to use Wikipedia as a source in high school. How am I using this on a bar exam, like in general? So the MPT is, if you have it, it literally is follow exactly what they say, no matter what they say. If they say the sky is green, the sky is green. If they say everybody has to write in their left hand, like, and that's how you're supposed, don't write with your left hand. I just mean like whatever they say in that paper, do what they say. Don't deviate at all. Make sure that is purely a test of you following instructions and making sure you do exactly what they say. If they say don't write in Iraq, don't write in Iraq. If they say whatever they say, basically whatever they say, do like, and erase everything else from your brain. Everything else you need to think of goes away because you're only using those exact resources. You're only using what is exactly given in that portion of the exam. Right. But yeah, the MPT is hard to wrap your brain around. It was hard for me.
And I have a little trick, and it's what I always use, and I score very well in MPT is when they give you those passages with the laws in them, and the court talks about how they lay out their rule, that's your guidance. This is how you write your MPT. And so if they give you a bunch of factors and they give you three passages, and each one of the passages talks about how to break that rule down, bam, that's where you go to, and I use exactly how they write it. I will exactly set it up just like they did. And that's how you can sometimes save time, because now you're not trying to rack your brain of how to set it up, but you already know is this how they put the law in, and this how the court went down, and they applied the law to the facts they have. Then you just take that same way, and you'll do your rule explanation, and then your analysis. And that way, how you set it up will make sure, especially for you, right? I'm about to mention your name, I am so sorry. Rochelle said that she's not doing enough, but she always run out of time. And so, I implore you to practice that way first, and see if that helps. If not, I'm gonna put my email into the chat and email me, and then we can try to figure out how can we tweak you so you can make sure that you finish in enough time.
Awesome. Okay, so wait, can y'all see my screen now?
Yes.
Perfect. So what you are looking at is my smart bar prep outline from like 2019, right? So what I meant by, so as you can see here, this is again very old, but it gives you like a ranking of high, low, and medium. It breaks down exactly how many times a specific rule has been tested on the bar. This is mostly for UBE, but you know, they do offer California specific. I want to say they also offer like Florida, but I could be wrong, so don't quote me. Yeah, so basically like this kind of outline. Okay, so it shows supplemental jurisdiction. It breaks down the rule. It emphasizes the buzzwords that you should be committing to memory, and it lists out the rules. It illustrates it for you. So, you know, this is something that you should be spending a lot of time to drill down, because this has been tested on X amount of exams. Whereas this next one, the domestic relations exception, it was only, well, back when I was taking it, it was only tested on one out of the last 49 exams. So I did not spend a lot of time on learning that. That was like more of something that I glanced over. Then they also have, you know, again, medium level rules.
Please stay tuned for part 2 of session 2.